So this is really interesting. So at a similar time to my inability to price websites, Charlie, I'd, I then looked at going, well, what is the difference between these people willing to pay 15,000 and we at the start we had clients for like 6, 7, 8,000. The 15,000 was like the story that was burnt into the back of my mind because I loved it. Profit was great. Everything was good. I'm like, what is the difference here? Like, why? Like, obviously, I alluded before that, well, I had a network of university students where Al had a bigger network of other people. I'm like, they're just businesses, Charlie. And at that time, I was sitting there, I'm like, I can't be all reliant on Alan. I can't, like, his volume is not the volume that I need. So I'm going to have to go out and I'm going to have to try and resell these things. So anyway, I went out and after my new gusto, I sold an orthodontist on a new website. And so I'm like, yep, I'm going to price accordingly. And then this guy had a tiny budget. And so he's like, sure, I'll pay. At the time, I think I charged him like $3,000 or something. And he's like, but you're going to be writing the content. You're going to be writing all this stuff. Da, 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 da. And he just had this list. And I'm like, sure, profit margin seems good. No worries at all. so, so I just had not factored it in. But then I'm like, so then I'd finished that project and I was in the same spot again. I'm like, I've done it again. What the is the difference between what I'm doing versus the clients that Al's got? And I remember still sitting there at the coffee club in Knox City with Alan Peck. And I'm like, I was explaining to him this orthodontic story. I'm like, it was like pulling teeth. It was worse. I had more calls. I actually ended up canceling the project. Like I just did not do it.
Side note, dentists are notoriously not good clients for digital agency owners. It's a thing in the industry. But anyway, continue on.
I just keep finding all these hand grenades. That explains my journey. So what he said is like, so if you look at the clients that him and I were working on, is like the quality of the businesses are fundamental businesses. Is like they've built up, they got profit, and they understand the value of what we're going to provide over someone else who doesn't understand the value, who thinks they're super creative. And I'm like, can you explain that further? And he's like, okay, so imagine a business that's doing $100 million a year in revenue versus a dentist that might be doing a couple of $1 million in revenue. And he's like, what do you think is their benchmark of expenses? How much do you think they're willing to pay on a website? How close do you really think they're going to get to this website needs to be this beautiful, this needs to look like this as a business owner? He's like, you're not even talking to them. You're talking to the marketing department. He's like, which is so far disconnected where they just want the outcome. And it was this huge aha moment where it was like, where I was fishing for clients and the quality of clients that I was getting was just not even connected. And so literally when I started going and building websites and when I moved into doing SEO, which was like my business improvement, I was going, well, where are the businesses that are making 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million plus a year? And how do I get them to want a website from me? And that was actually the biggest difference because funnily enough, it turned out that the more they paid, the less they complained.
Isn't that an interesting insight? It's such a true one.
Frustrating. Yeah, so frustrating and annoying because as someone delivering it, costs were the same. I had less meetings. I had less email interactions. Profit margins significantly higher, but it was just the same thing packaged to someone just different. And so I put it down to one of the biggest sort of impacts that I had was just the quality of clients. Like it was the premium clients, like just solving a problem for a premium client just turns out to be better. And I even go a little bit further. I dove one layer deeper into why this was. And it ended up being a percentage of their marketing spend. So when I was 100% of their marketing spend, it was always the worst. But if I was like 1% of it, 5% of it, it was the best because they were looking at like an aggregation. And so then it went, cool, if you're doing $20 million a year in revenue as a business and I'm going to be a 5 or a 10% spend of your marketing budget, you're my ideal client.
It's so interesting, this point. So interesting. I wonder if your finding is the same. So when I was doing ads, the cruelty of ads, and this is the cruelty, is it's actually way easier to do ads for bigger organizations. Like, not only are they more well behaved, but the likelihood of them having a good product that's already well known or some marketplace value to run ads on. I'll give you an example. The easiest account in the world to run ads for is probably Apple, right? Because people already want their stuff. They've got look at how much marketing they've already done. Like anyone, I'll put it out there, like a junior media buyer could look like a rock star on their account because there's so much brand value. Or if they're running like Tony Robbins ads, do you know the hardest account to run is like the startup with a limited budget? But yet, when you go into the industry, you don't start at Apple or Tony Robbins, right? You feel like you need to build up experience to get to those accounts. But the reality is that lower tier is so damn hard that it actually clogs up businesses and destroys profit in a really big way. So that who you serve on that spectrum actually discerns not only how hard the work is, how well you work with the client, your interactions, how they value with things, how they work as an organization. So it ends up really backwards. It's a really, really cruel thing. Was your finding the same?
It totally was. But I still remember it was one of the largest crane hire companies in Australia. Had them as a client, and they'd never email me. They'd never talk about anything. Like, it was just like, yep, cool, thanks. Tick, 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 tick. And the best thing that they had was a whole heap of billboards went up. They had TV ads running. And then like this little website and sort of SEO component was just like this little fraction of what their overall spend was. And I'm like, this is great because all these news articles are talking about the website. So it's ranking well and I don't need to do all these other things. I'm like, this is fantastic. How do I just get more of them? And so I completely concur versus someone who's like, oh, my website's brand spanking new. And if what you do, Charlie, does not work, I'm close to the business.
So to make this the point or the impact for someone who's listening to this, client selection.
Totally. If you took value-based pricing, overlapped your concept of niche with markets that value what you provide, and just went a really good quality of client, you could evaporate like 3 years of my learning. Like if you just say, Grant, just do these things for these 4 things that like literally when I've run through, fundamentally different outcome quicker.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, this is particularly applicable to like services, right? So when I look at it, and to add layers to that as well, I can see this would be applicable if you're in products. Maybe it's a type of product you offer.
Totally. Like if you were, even if you're in software, it's the same thing. Like if you go for bigger businesses, like
a certain tier of client may need more support than another, or you might be better off developing a premium solution and charging more for it than trying to go the mass appeal of a lower run $7 subscription in that example.
Exactly. Hey, fellow business owner, if this topic and value-packed short video has resonated with you at all, and you want to dive deeper into creating wealth inside and outside your business, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now.